You ever notice this? The moment you stop talking, people get uncomfortable. Not because you're silent, but because silence from someone who understands feels like exposure. They don't fear what you say. They fear what you see. Because once you see through people, you stop reacting. And that's when you become dangerous. Most people think power looks loud. Anger, arguments, dominance. They're wrong. Real power is calm, still, watching. The kind that doesn't rush, and doesn't explain itself. See, the world is built on performance. Smile here. Agree there. Nod along. Don't ask questions that make people nervous. Because nervous people lose control. So they reward predictability. They reward obedience. They reward silence as long as it's empty. But the moment your silence becomes intentional, they notice. They say, "You've changed. You're distant. You're cold now." No. You're awake. You stopped mistaking noise for connection. You stopped mistaking familiarity for truth. You started noticing patterns. How most conversations are rehearsed. How most confidence is borrowed. How most opinions are inherited, not earned. You noticed how people don't listen to understand. They listen to defend. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. That's when you pull back. Not out of arrogance, but out of respect for your own mind. You stop explaining yourself to people who don't want clarity. You stop bleeding for people who enjoy the view. Your circle gets smaller, quieter, sharper, and that's when loneliness shows up. But loneliness isn't empty. Loneliness is where truth gets loud. In that quiet, you meet yourself without filters, without masks, without applause. And it's uncomfortable. Because you realize how much of your life was spent performing. Performing strength. Performing happiness. Performing control. Until one day, you stop. And the mask comes off. That's when things get interesting. People start projecting, labeling, misunderstanding. They need a story where you are the problem. Because accepting your clarity would force them to question their comfort. And comfort hates questions. So they call you intense. They call you dark. They call you too much. Let them. Darkness is just clarity. Without decoration. You didn't become heartless. You became selective. You didn't lose empathy. You stopped wasting it. You didn't get colder. You got precise. Every word becomes deliberate. Every silence becomes a decision. You stop reacting. And reaction is where control lives. The moment you stop reacting, you take power back. People expect anger. They expect chaos. They expect noise. They don't expect calm certainty. Calm scares them. Because calm means you've already accepted every possible outcome. You're not afraid to lose. Because you already lost. What was big? You stopped chasing approval. You stopped chasing validation. You chased alignment. And alignment changes the way you move. You don't rush. You don't announce. You don't warn. Growth doesn't make noise. Impact does. They won't see it coming. One day, they'll look at you differently. Not with curiosity. Not with admiration. with respect. The kind that comes when someone realizes you can't be manipulated, rushed, or shaken, because you already survived the most dangerous place possible, your own mind. And you didn't numb it, you didn't escape it, you faced it. That's why your presence feels heavier now. Not threatening, unavoidable. You're not here to save anyone. You're not here to fit in. You're not here to entertain. You're here to stay real, in a world addicted to masks. And if that makes you the villain in someone else's story, so be it. Villains are just people who stopped asking for permission to see clearly. Smile. Not because life is funny, but because you finally see the joke. And once you see it, you can never pretend again. And here's the part no one warns you about: once you stop pretending, you don't crave connection the same way anymore. Not because you don't need people, but because you finally understand the cost of letting the wrong one stay. You start valuing peace over proximity, depth over noise, alignment over approval. You stop forcing conversations. You stop chasing responses. You stop explaining your absence. And that absence, it speaks louder than any argument ever could. People feel it. They feel the shift, even if they can't name it. Because when someone removes themselves, without anger, without drama, without revenge, it leaves a mirror behind. And mirrors make people uncomfortable. You become harder to read. Not mysterious. Disciplined. Not guarded. Intentional. You know when to speak. You know when to leave. You know when silence is power. And silence, used correctly, is lethal. You don't need to prove strength. You don't need to threaten. Your restraint does the work. You've learned something rare. The loudest move is not moving at all. The sharpest weapon is clarity. And once you master that, the world stops feeling chaotic. It starts feeling predictable. And predictability, in the hands of someone awake, that's real danger. So if they sense distance now, if they sense weight in your presence, if they sense something different, they're right. You're no longer reacting to the world. You're deciding how much of yourself it deserves. And that decision changes everything.